is fun. So important to have fun during virtual events. On to our next speaker of today, Julia Cabrera. Julia is based in Paris. She worked as an event manager for Philips until very recently. She's an early adapter of multi-hub events. She organized her first one already in 2018. And already at that time, she realized that online events need to tap into our need for connection and interaction. Julia is also a very young entrepreneur. She started her own business, or she co-founded her own consulting business in September, JULS Life Sciences. They are experts in events strategy, design, organization, and facilitation. They specialize in virtual and in hybrid events, and they work particularly for the health tech sector. Aminda already said it, online events require very specific ingredients, especially where we want to drive engagement with our participants. And Julia is going to deep dive into that. Julia, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Dominique, and hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Yes, I'm Julia, and I'm here indeed to take you through some tips and tricks of how you would organize an engaging event. So you can move to the next slide, please. I want to start with a poll, so you can use again the Ask Live button on the top right of the screen, and I want to ask you how you feel. Don't be shy. You can feel completely honest. Think about not just today, but also the past weeks we've been through, the past month, and what's ahead of us. So all of this in your mind, tell me how you honestly feel. I see nervous, full, okay, you're full of, okay, stressed, okay. Let's give people a few seconds more to enter the poll. Excited, that's good. Uncertain, yeah, that's also a big one, yeah, the doubt. So when I see this, yes, I see people being, I see both. I see excitement and I see people being nervous, right? But I think we're in a bit of a very, very weird time. We're living in a very, very strange, crazy time indeed. You can move on to the next slide now. You can see actually my next slide is a mixture, I would say. I find those pictures online. Yeah, to illustrate how I felt actually and how we feel, I think, most of us. You know, most of us have been under lockdown for a few weeks. We have worked from home. We have homeschooled our kids when applicable, and it was not easy. We attended some very poorly executed virtual events. It was sometimes boring. It was terrible look and feel, long agenda, but we did survive, right? But at a price. Our social life has been impacted, right? And still is, right? Most of us are still working from home and still dealing with this. We are, I think, bored in general and bored with virtual event in particular at this time of the year. We are tired of being home. We are tired of working from home. We are tired, as this poor guy on the top right, tired with our own interaction with our own computer. We miss coffee time, we miss lunchtime, we miss those little social bubbles, right, in our daily life. And I think we're craving for social interactions and human connection, right? And I would say also we are digitally drained overall. Go on to the next slide, please. So here, I'm asking you what we need, and I think at this time we actually need to recover faith and trust in virtual events. As event professionals, right? I think we are really on a mission, right? We are on a mission to seduce, like we would do when we want to win over an ex-lover, for instance, right? We want to surprise our audience. We want to seduce them again, right? Back into loving virtual events. Honestly, in France, because I'm French, we called it Skype apéro, right? It was a mix of Skype and apéro. Apéro meaning like a a kind of a snack time, right, at night. Well, honestly, after a few minutes on the Skype apéro, whatever you call it, maybe happy hours online, whatever that is during lockdown, it was a bit boring, right? Because it was such a huge mess, people talking at the same time. You feel like you're together, but you don't hear it, and it's noisy, and it's not fun, right? So I think we're just ready to hang up after this. So I think we really need to as event professionals, right, we need to change the people's minds, right? They should forget about those awkward moments and boring time on virtual setup, and we should make them want to go virtual again, but with something exciting, right? So we want to provide them, as I say here, more interactions that are valuable, right? We want to bring them enthusiasm and energy, right? Because when you get online or to an event, what you expect is to get enthusiastic, right? And you want energy out of this event, right? And what you need, I think, overall is also rock star event managers, right? Because those people really are rock stars. Really, they are willing to adapt to the new normal, the new context, and deliver amazing virtual events. Next slide, please. Now, you may wonder in the audience, because most of you, I think, are event managers, right? So you may wonder how you would build actually an interactive and engaging event. Well, I have some things to share with you to help you on this journey. So next slide, please. Here is a 5 steps detailed action plan that you were looking for. So step 1, you want to adapt the format. As Amanda said already, you should not copy paste a face-to-face format into a virtual format. You cannot possibly expect people to sit down for 3 straight days at their desk and keeping them engaged. It will never happen. You will lose them after, I think, 2 hours. Then you need to mix and match the activities, right? You want your audience, attention is very fragile, right? So you want to have different rhythm within the program. So we'll dive into it in a minute. Step 3, you want to make the most of the platform tool that you have available, right? So as we've done earlier with Aminda and Dominique, you want to use the poll, the Q&A features, live chat sometime as well, or work cloud. Step 4, very important one. Don't shy away from gamification. Like, it's not that hard. Don't make it a huge deal, but it really works. Like, to drive your session engagement and collect also feedback, right? It's a great option. So we also dive into this in more details in the next slide. And step 5, actually, you should also prep. Go back one slide, please. Step 5, you should also not underestimate the virtual speakers preparation. You really have to train them. I mean, it's your role as an event manager to train the speakers as well, because a successful virtual event is hosted by confident and impactful speakers and moderators. Next slide, please. So on the mix and match activities, it's a lot of text here, but I will go through quickly. So as I said earlier, you don't want them to be sitting down at their desk for too long, right? So I would advise on a 1-hour session, not much. I mean, after 1 hour, I think our attention drops, so we have to take a little break at some point. And within this hour, you also need different rhythm, as I said, right? So you need to articulate between presentation, like a top-down one-way communication. You also want to have, as we call, oriented discussion, right? Where you actually get like very detailed question. And here, I think you also want to point out that I think for virtual event, you also want to have in mind that pre-work is important. So you want to have pre-meeting activities where you can actually prepare and get to know what your audience want, what they expect from this event. So you can prepare this, and then you adapt the content accordingly, right? So in those 20 minutes, like, you can have those talks, the oriented discussion. This is where you take those feedback from what you had earlier, right? When you prepare your meeting. Then you have, as we did earlier, so like specific Q&A, we'll do it afterwards as well, where people can actually type in their question and have the speakers answer. And then come the brain break for, I would say, 5 minutes more or less. Next slide, please. So brain break, you may wonder what that is, and it's not too complicated. A brain break is actually a short energizing burst of activity, right? That boosts blood flow and sends oxygen to the brain. and it also helps your attendees better retain the information. So who can do this? As Dominique did it earlier, the moderator can do it, the speakers can do it as well if they want to in the presentation. Of course, you have to keep it short, you have to keep it clear, so you need to explain the rules, and it can be many things. We'll see afterwards a few examples, right? Why would you want to do this during the presentation? So as I said, you cannot expect people to be watching you and listening to you for hours. So at some point, the brain needs to disconnect, like to disconnect and just reset, right? So you want to take care, you want to, when you do this, like you also show that you are into this, like you know that you are in your participants' mind and you know what they expect, what they, how they feel at the moment of the event, and where they need like this little boost to feel better, right? So here you also, so with a brain break, you actually take care of their mind and body, right? And they also have fun in their serious context, as I would say here. Moving on to the next slide, please. So how you do this? With not big surprise, you will work hand in hand with your either event manager in your company or third-party vendor, right? I think to bring to build those brain breaks, it has to of course fit your specific objectives, right? To be consistent. Here is a recap of what I said earlier. Like you have to keep in mind the body of your attendees, their mind, the fun, and also soft skills, because you can still learn a few things, right? During those brain breaks, it's not just stretching and doing yoga, right? It's also about things that you can teach them in a fun way. Next slide, please. Now we move on into gamification. And what is this? Actually, it's the use of game, let's say, design elements, right, in a non-game context. If you wonder why you would, at this stage, if you still wonder why you would gamify your events, I would tell you because you want to engage them, right? You want to modify sometimes maybe their behavior. You want to accomplish, of course, your event's KPI. You want to maximize intention. You want the attendees to learn and network. And don't be afraid. Gamification is not hard. It takes some time, of course. It's a bit of time and investment into like thinking what you want, but it's not hard and it's not too costly. You can do some very easy things and not too costly. And gamification is not about turning your event into a competition, right? Or a video game, not at all. It's more like a strategy that applies game mechanics, right? Next slide, please. So again, with no big surprise, you will need to work with the event manager here to get things this done. And you need to define your goals. So just as you would do for setting up your own event, well, within the game, you want to also define your objectives, right? What do you want out of this? So what do you expect from your attendees, right? And those objectives, those goals would actually help you build your own game, because it can be so many things. Then I would say refine your goals to be smart. You want them to be specific, measurable, actionable, reasonable, and time sensitive. Being actionable is like, again, coming back to what you expect from your audience, right? Do you want them to network? Do you want them to, I don't know, share? Do you want them to compare, to discuss, network? As I said, I think explore, rate something, learn, recommend, whatever that is. But based on those things that you really want them to do during this game, then you know how to build it, right? And you should keep it short and easy for you to build and for them to play. Next slide, please. So here are a few examples, because you may have this question coming up. So games can be many things, right, online. And creating, as I said, your specific game based with your own objectives will require a bit of time. You need to build the content, but I think it's really worth the effort, honestly. So here I put down a few examples. We have trivia, where you actually, have a series of questions they need to answer, and they would get some points every time they answer. You can organize digital scavenger hunts, where they have tasks to complete. You can have a photo challenge as well. So as when we had the flowers delivered to our house yesterday, you can also actually ship a box to your attendees to their house with a few props, and you have a photo challenge at the time of the day where they can, all of them, put on their own props and get a huge picture with everyone dressed up, and then you have like the contest of who is the best picture of the most funny, whatever that is. You all know bingo, I think, like this little card where you have the also things to find, either horizontally or vertically. And last but not least, you can also create your own game from scratch and be inspired, right? And we actually with Abit a few years ago, we created this Eurovision contest, Restyle, applied to marketing plans. Yes. Next slide, please. So you may wonder actually how it works, and you may wonder why we did this, just because, you know, marketing plans is not always super exciting, right? So you are here listening to those 10 slides. From each country, you have, at the time we had 14 hubs, right? So you listen to those 14 presentations, and then you need some time, you need it to be at some point fun and, let's say, engaging, right, with the audience. So we created this Eurovision thing where you, after each presentation, each country actually voted and let's say allow points to this presentation, giving either 1 point, 2 points, or 3 points. And the overall amount would actually appear live on the screen, as you can see on the top left picture here. And I think, I mean, you may not feel the energy on the picture, but it was super fun. Like, people really were into it. And like the speakers were saying, like, I don't know, and Japan is giving 3 points to Italy. And like, they were really having so much fun. So it was not long, but it was a little thing in the program to get them like, you know, like reset and really have a fun time, right? As well in this marketing plan, not so fun time. Next slide, please. Outfit and decor, I think background is also a good one. It doesn't take much, honestly, but it's also, I think, a good part of gamification. So it's not a game, of course, in such, but I think, you know, also asking your audience in advance, a few weeks in advance, to think about how they can prepare their own room, how they can dress up as a team to be, because this time they were hybrid, so they were all in a hub together. Like this thing where they can also, before the event starts, they can also already be thinking about it and being excited about what's coming up, right? So here you can see the Indian hub in Mumbai, where they were actually dressed up with those very colorful outfits. It was super nice. They also had like this Taj Mahal, you know, background. It was super nice, super fun. So here I think you enhance your, I think, attendees experience. You had a personal touch, and you relax, I think, again, the overall atmosphere of the event. Next slide, please. So on prepping your virtual speakers, I would say don't underestimate this component, because it's honestly a big part of your role, right? You as an event manager, you should make them feel comfortable, right, with the technology, because it can be, I mean, some people can be super comfortable, but some of them are really stressed with just pressing the button and where to look and where to stand, and this kind of things can really damage their presentation, right? So you are really here to make it smooth for them and focus on just delivering the best virtual speak, right? You should ask them the key questions, right? If as we heard earlier, like if they want to actually have some engagement tools, are they comfortable using those, poll or Q&A or word cloud during their talk, or not at all? Rehearsals are mandatory. So I know even for a face-to-face format, I had to drag down people coming to the rehearsal, but we have to. And I think maybe even more with virtual, like maybe people are on their own in their house, I don't know, wherever they sit in their house. Maybe it's noisy, maybe it's not the right light. So we want to rehearse. We want to see how it looks. We want to see how it will look on the day, right? On the day, I will say get online also and be ready to roll maybe half an hour before your time, so there is no stressful situation of, oh, I need to plug my headset, it's not working, So you check all of this earlier and you log in early enough before you talk. Maybe one last thing, of course, it makes sense, but it's like, look at the camera, like, you know, your people are behind the screen, like you need to look at the camera so that you really engage with them as well this way. Next slide, please. So I think you can be proud of yourself, guys. Bravo, well done. You, I think, now have a better understanding, right, of how to design and execute an engaging and exciting virtual event. And here is your virtual ninja engagement point. Well done to everyone. Next slide, please. But in case Ninja sometimes need extra support or training, or maybe you want to outsource this this event management service. So in case you do, just ping me. I'm right here to help if you want to. Next slide, please. As earlier said by Dominic, I did start my own business. So here I am at JULS Life Science with a partner as well in Singapore, that we can help you either in Europe or Asia. We can help you design and create your own very specific, very specific to yourself and to your own needs virtual event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Julia, for sharing that with us. I've remembered 3 tips and tricks from your presentation. First one is that creating engaging and interactive events